Hello everyone, welcome back to the KMTRADERS channel. So this is the full market analysis volume 86. Again, we're going to give you an insight of what we're thinking for the week ahead and also compare our analysis from last week as well by leaving those annotations on that we drew from last week. So without further ado, we are going to leave gold and EURUSD for tomorrow in separate videos. I believe we're also looking into doing GU and GJ as well. It's not 100%, but I'm thinking about doing it. But anyway, we'll start off with NZD for this video. So what we were looking at from last week was pretty much this bias towards the downside. We're still possibly thinking that there is a sell-off opportunity in store for us. Again, for this, what we can see, you know, we've had that bull run towards the upside, so we didn't really manage to find any entries to the downside just yet, so we can get rid of these annotations for now. But what we actually are looking into doing is still taking a sell as long as we don't break the 0.71 barrier. So what we could expect is price to you know, maybe push up a little higher and then drop down into 0.675, even into 0.68, let's just say, as a nice round number. And then really from here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to see if we can look for a buying opportunity, because I have the overall bias for this shift towards the upside. So the other thing that that could happen is if we do break that 0.71 barrier, that is totally fine, because it now indicates that we are shifting higher. So with that being said, if price does break early and we get a break of 0.71, all we need to do is just wait for the retest and then wait for that continuation play. So again, with that, it's still going to take time. So with this, we don't really have to rush into these trades. We just need to wait for the market to act in our you know, flow of thinking, and then we can just pretty much ride the rest of the price action towards where we are thinking price can go to. So we're looking at 0.73 as a little target, and then from here we're going to review how price goes. So if price manages to go from 0.68 to the upside, it's a good 500 pips. But if we get a break of the 0.71, again, it really depends where we find that retracement or reaction and after the retest. But let's just say it's at 0.69. Let's just say we could get around 300 or 400 pips again. But for now, you know, what I'm still looking into is one more move towards the downside. I think that would be just perfect if it can. And then we're going to look at how it reacts at 0.68 and go from there. So that's my bias for that for NZDUSD. Let's move on now to AUDUSD. So similar approach with this pair is we're still going to look for that sell-off opportunity. I think what we discussed last week was price. We were waiting for price to turn over as price had made a huge rally towards the downside. So what my expectation is through this week is again looking at a similar scenario where if we can get price to break lower, then that will be great, and we're gonna hope to anticipate price to get into 0.71, and then from here a similar story with NZDUSD is we're going to see how price reacts at this point, and from here we're essentially waiting for some sort of reversal, and if we can, we're gonna wait and try and get it all. Well, we're gonna try and hold this trade all the way into 0.79, and we'll see if we can, you know, pretty much do that. Again, 700 or so pips, but again, that's going to be a long wait. So again, we don't recommend you holding onto trades. We recommend you to just take some profits and secure them along the way. So for this, I think we had in our notes actually before I move on, the 0.74 barrier. If we break that level, I think we could be on our way to shifting up. And if we do, again, as the second scenario for NZDUSD, is we'll just have to wait for that retest, and hopefully we can get in onto that continuation play. So if that happens, we're going to have to wait for that perfect opportunity to enter the market. So again, there's a lot of patience involved right now with the market, so I don't want to rush anything. Pretty much we need to just stay focused with what opportunities we have at hand, and you know, we don't really need to rush anything. So that's pretty much my two biases for AUDUSD. So let's move on to now UJ. So what we had anticipated from this week, well, from last week, was pretty much we were in two states of mind. We were looking for price to drop lower, and then look for a buy. If I quickly just take a look at my notes, I'm just looking at how price has just been moving along here. I think what could end up happening is price to push lower. So I'm going to keep, you know, this second scenario in mind, but essentially what we are looking for potentially is for price to break the 108.5 region, and then see how it reacts at this level to then take it all the way up to the upside. Again, the other scenario that we do have is if price breaks 111, then there is the scenario that we could have a sell-off opportunity, and if that happens, then we can, you know, take sells into the downside. But if we are, you know, pushing lower, I think the best opportunity for me is just to wait for buying opportunities and hold it into 112, and then vice versa here. If we if price does do this second route, then we're waiting for something like this. So again, it doesn't really, like I say, it doesn't really matter what happens. The main thing for me is you know, just the trading opportunities. If we see some you know, more complicated way of trading it, then, you know, let the route unfold, and we can do our best to see if we can get some pips in. So there's no rush with this pair at all. So yeah, so that's my thinking with that pair. So taking a look into CADJPY. So for this, I think the first option that we spoke about is to see if price could continue to break lower. That actually didn't happen. I think that we can clearly see that there's a shift now. I think what we could potentially see with the second scenario is pretty much this pullback. So what we're trying to do now is to see if we've got if we can get a retest. So whether the price drops a bit lower and then rallies up, then let it be. But I'm trying to see if we can squeeze some pips in here on the upside, and I think if we can push higher, we could absolutely aim for 91. And again, that's quite a lot of pips to the upside, a good 400, 500. So yeah, we'll see what the flow is like and where we can, you know, take price action into. And again, I think this third scenario, excuse me, I think this third scenario doesn't really, I'm not really looking into that now just yet, because how price has moved up to the upside. There is still a possibility of price breaking lower, but if that happens, then it's going to be more continuations lower, so I might as well just leave that in. So if we do get a break towards the downside here, I will be expecting a retracement, and then we can take a sell off that retest and hold it down. But as we're, you know, pushing up higher, I think it's wise to you know, continuate this move towards the upside and see if we can still push higher with it. So let's just see how price performs in the week. So with EJ, I think a similar story again here. So I think what we spoke about last week is for a possibility of price turning towards the downside. I think we're not entirely looking into that right now. I think that there is a possibility though of one or two things happen. So I just had a quick look in my notes. So so what we're still looking out for is pretty much this new shift. So this new shift is roughly going to, you know, move up towards the upside. I'm looking for 134 in price, but again, there is scenario. So what I'm looking at right now is, because we can see this strength in the upside, I'm going to see if we can continuate this move. So what we could look for is price to push lower and then look for those continuation moves higher. So if we do get this play, we can, pretty much ride this, and hopefully this will continue to push up higher and higher into our target. The second scenario is, so this annotation here was drawn from last week, so I'm quite happy to leave it there. But the second scenario is that if we get that retest but it stops, it doesn't manage to rally up higher and it continues to push lower and lower, there is a possibility of price breaking that low, and then if so, then it could be this buy scenario from the downside. So I won't be looking for sells really. I'll be most likely looking for buys and holding it towards the upside. I don't think there's any worth taking a sell opportunity for now, unless I'm looking for short-term moves. But for long term, I'm going to be looking to take price up into at least the highs of 134, again, which is a very long way. But yeah, the purpose of discussing these two potential routes is just in case price does break its low, we're still going to be looking for that buying opportunity. But the best case scenario is that if this does continue to push higher and higher, we can just simply wait for that retest, and then we can push on with the overall new trend. So that's what I'm thinking with that pair. NZDJPY, this pair has been looking quite bullish over the last few days. I'm quite hesitant to take any buys just yet though, purely based on the fact that we're expecting price to break a low. So there is a possibility of price to make its way back down into 74 to 74.5, and if so, we could possibly look at a sell-off opportunity to the downside. So whether this is short term or long term, again, it really just depends what you guys want to do. So you have to excuse that circle, but essentially if we break the 78 barrier, which is here, I think that there is this possibility of price continuing to push higher. I'm not going to look for any selling opportunities if we break this high, but for now I am going to consider sell-off opportunities and holding it down into the low, so a good 300 or so pips, and then hopefully we can look at a buying opportunity in which we can take into the new high of 80. So again, that's my kind of thoughts with this pair for now, but obviously as we go through the weeks and the days, anything can happen. Okay, so yeah, so moving on now to AUDJPY, we've got a similar story here. Is that again from last week we were looking for price to roll over to the downside. We can see that price is still strong. Price is still moving up quite strong. So I think if we can still look for that sell-off opportunity, I think that there is one coming in store for us. We may even get, luckily, we may even get a retest on this bottom of the channel. But for me, if we break the 81.5 to 82 region, so I'll mark it out like so, I think this will indicate a bullish setup. And if so, we'll look for a retest on the level, but I don't think that we'll be able to get a retest anytime soon in the next week if that does happen, because the main move will be towards the upside. So let's just sit back and stay patient with this one, because I think we could still look for that turnover towards the downside. So let's just see with that one and look at around 78 if we do. But yeah, so let's move on to the last two pairs for this week's video. So USDCHF, what I was anticipating, excuse me, is a sell-off opportunity. We're pretty much consolidating in this range of 92 to 91. So what I'm going to do is pretty much let this push lower if it can. I'm hoping for price to break the 91 barrier, and then if we can, I'll be looking to look at some buying opportunities into 93, and yeah, we'll see how price performs on that one. I think there'll be a big rally in store for us. I think NFP is next week, most likely it should be, but that could be the start of the new wave, so let's just see what happens with that one. And finally, USDCAD. So I think what we was expecting was price to push up a little higher and then roll over to the downside, but this had literally just continued to drop off. So what I'm looking at is so what I'm looking at is price to continue this drop off in price. So we could expect price to just fall down really. I'm looking at 124 possibly before we can get that turnover to the downside. So with that being said, we can still look for sells on a short-term basis possibly. Let's just see what the pip count is, because USDCAD is quite good. So a good 200 or so, and then maybe on the upside, a good 500 pips or so. So again, it really just depends if we can get in on the market really. I don't really want to rush into this, but essentially that's where we're going to stand with you with this week. Sorry, just quickly checking my notes if I missed anything. But yeah, so up for this week, I think we have to be aware of the NFP. Let me just have a quick check. I think. Let me check. It should be August 31st. Bear with me a second, guys. But yeah, I'm pretty much certain that the NFP is either this up and coming week, or it's going to be the next week or so. So it is this week, right? So Wednesday and Friday, yeah. So with that being said, we could expect some new trends being formed just based on that NFP week. So again, it could either be that, or it could be flushing out more price action to the downside. So we could get more US dollar weakness, so price pushing lower and lower. But ideally, what we could expect, hopefully, it really depends how it plays across the other board. But with the NFP, it could spark this big trends that we've been speaking about over the. If you think about all the pairs that we've looked at so far, I've spoken about the new longer term trend, and it's been really big, if that makes sense. So it could make sense, it could change over next week, but let's just see. Again, this is why we do our videos, to pretty much keep on track of things, and hopefully this video helps you all as well with your own trading. So yeah guys, that will be all from us. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, I do appreciate your time for listening. Thank you very much. If you have joined or recently subscribed, make sure to join our Telegram group. I'm going to be putting out a bit more content on that actually. And yeah, we also do have a trading group that you can join as well. So that link is in the description. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thank you very much for listening, guys, and we'll see you all in our next video.